Hi, I'm Diva from Musical Hell, and I know the score. Yes, it's that time of year again. Fall is in the air, pumpkin spice is in the lattes, and everyone is gearing up for their favorite Halloween classics. So, after years of dithering, it's high time I present my top 5 favorite spooky scores. These are the soundtracks I feel best contribute to making a movie creepy, macabre, disturbing, and altogether ooky. I'm leaving out musicals because, really, I think that's an entirely separate list right there. Also, due to time constraints, I didn't have time to work in honorable mentions, so please let me know which soundtracks are on your Halloween playlist rotation. Number 5. Inception. While not a horror movie, Inception's Hans Zimmer score gives me the creepy chills every time I hear it. Distortion is a musical device I find particularly unsettling, and this soundtrack is rife with it. Appropriate for a story that plays with the audience's perceptions of time, space, and reality. At its most dramatic, Zimmer's score is imposing and threatening, building on a deep bass ostinato that creates a sense of dread and danger. Layered electronic sounds create a mood that's perfectly and unsettlingly surreal. Throw in a very effective use of Edith Piaf's Non Je ne regrette rien as an oddly sinister leitmotif, and you have a soundtrack that's part dream, part nightmare, and all unforgettable. Number 4. The Shining. There was a lot of conflict going on during the production of Stanley Kubrick's psychological horror classic, and the soundtrack was no exception. Wendy Carlos and Rachel Elkind composed a full score for The Shining, only to have Kubrick chuck almost the whole thing and replace it with pre-existing modern classical pieces. Which is unfortunate, because what remains of the Carlos Elkind score is well worth listening to, especially the marvelously scary opening titles, featuring haunting minimalist sounds over an imposing Dies Irae motif. That the use of pre-existing music is a failure, though. By choosing pieces heavy with discord and conflict, Kubrick creates a soundscape that bristles with madness and despair. Several 1930s British dance band pieces create a stark contrast with their smooth, dissonantly serene tone, evoking a nostalgia that makes the horrific history of the Overlook Hotel even more startling by comparison. He may have been hell to work with, but you can't deny that Kubrick's results were quite impressive.
It's all forgotten now, the trouble and the pride, forgotten every word I said.
Number 3. Coraline. Does anybody do old-school dark fairy tale fantasy as well as Neil Gaiman? Coraline is a perfect mix of child-friendly and totally terrifying, and Bruno Coulet's score for the film adaptation follows suit. With its weird racing motifs and eerie nonsense chanting, it's like a freaky combination of Cirque du Soleil and Danny Elfman. In its gentler movements, Coulé's music displays a sweet, naive beauty, but there's always a sinister undercurrent that betrays the dark nature of the seemingly ideal world Coraline finds herself in. The result is just the right combination of childlike innocence and primeval darkness that makes Coraline such an unforgettable story. Number 2. Beetlejuice. Speaking of Danny Elfman, you didn't think we'd get through this list without mentioning him, did you? Like a lot of composers with a signature style, Elfman's scores do tend to bleed together after a while, but this one remains a standout. With the maniacal energy of a funhouse ride spinning out of control, Elfman's score provides the right mix of the comical and the macabre for Tim Burton's take on the afterlife. Even the more subdued moments have a kind of lunatic edge to them, demonstrating an almost morbid formality. Halloween is a mix of the spooky and the fun, and this is a perfect score for the season. And the number 1 spooky score, Psycho. When I said that title, one thing popped into your mind. But reducing Bernard Herrmann's score to a single soundbite, even an indelibly iconic one that delivers an oral assault as sudden and horrifying as the scene it accompanies, does it a great disservice. Due to budget constraints, Herrmann orchestrated his score for a string ensemble rather than a full orchestra, but rather than being limited by the narrow range of instruments, he creates a distinctive mood that's stripped down yet rich in nuance and tone. From the opening titles, Herrmann menaces the audience with his insistent themes, sharp chords, and unsettling legato movements, creating a sense of evil lurking just under the surface, of being stalked by something you can't see. Like Norman Bates itself, it's deceptively simple and unassuming, yet ultimately reveals a sinister, unhinged nature. It's every bit as memorable as one of the truly great horror movies deserves. I'm Diva, I know the score, and now, so do you.